presenting at conferences. So what we were originally going to do, we were going to actually do an activity in Jamboard to just kind of get a feel where everyone was at with their projects. Of course, Kelly, you are the big R with all of your projects that you're doing. And then we probably have folks here that are the little R and probably scholarly work and maybe just a little bit of everything. But again, these are things that you really want to be able to think about, especially as you are now engaging in your early career. Taps?
It helps if every single time, gotta remember to unmute myself before I start talking. So Rosie kind of touched on it a little bit, but as we go through this, some of the areas that we want you to keep in mind and see how they pertain to you is what kind of research are you required to do? Is it that big R, that little r? What are your priorities in finding funding? What barriers are you experiencing in finding that funding? And what resources are you aware of here at our university that can help you to meet all three of those areas before? So what can we be doing to assist you? And there might be resources you might not be aware of that we can talk to you about and let you know of. So next slide there, Rosie.
Right, before we go on here, so the reason we wanted to do this as guiding questions is because a lot of times when you're new, starting to get into writing even the smallest proposals or the largest proposals, you really want to kind of figure out what you would like, to do. And if there are perceived barriers to you, this is a great opportunity for you to have these conversations with your colleagues to help kind of navigate some of these things. And then of course, that's where your dean or director would come in and to see what kind of resources would be available for you at your, at the institution for the type of research that you are conducting.
So we're going to take this back kind of to the very beginning. And what is research development? And that includes a broad spectrum of activities. It includes, it could be finding funding opportunity announcements. It could be developing that team. So connecting researchers from different institutions or campuses together to collaborate and work on a project. It could be developing a concept of research that you want to be looking after and then going and finding that funding that's going to support that particular research. It could be working on proposal creation. So you have the funding opportunity, you have the research, you have the team, and now let's put this all together and work on creating a proposal that we are going to submit and get funded. That is really the area of research development. And it does vary institution to institution. Here at our university, we kind of do it all, and we work with different departments and collaborate on that. So if we have a researcher that's looking at collaborating with another department, sometimes we'll work on putting those two individuals together, or we'll suggest areas for individuals to go and talk to. Because where we sit, especially in pre-award, we see what everybody's doing. Because it all comes across our desk. And so we're in a great position to help foster those relationships with deans, directors, and researchers. And we can help with finding funding for you and point you in different areas. There's all kinds of funding out there depending on what you are looking for. And then definitely work on creating a strong proposal for submission that will get awarded. So next slide. So the secret to success is to be ready when your opportunity comes. Don't wait for opportunity to come and then drive on by as you're getting ready, right? You gotta be ready before the opportunity comes so you can jump at that moment in time. So there's a couple of pointers for getting research funding. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You want to diversify your portfolio and what you're looking for as much as possible. And that not only is your research and looking at all the different aspects of your research, but also all your funding that you have. We did gear this kind of towards NIH, but look at private funding, look at tribal, look at state, look at industry. There's lots of different funding out there, and you really want to diversify your portfolio as much as possible. Got to promote yourself. Nobody else is going to do it for you. So you want to connect with your program officers at federal agencies, pick up the phone, talk to them, visit them. One of the best things for especially early careers coming out is to sit on those review panels. Not only are you going to find out what your agencies are looking for by sitting on a review panel, you'll see what everybody else is doing, and they're going to associate your name. Agencies always need people for review panels. So if you help them out, they'll tend to remember you a little bit more. Most proposals are public information. They're on the websites. NIH has them up on theirs. NSF has them. NASA has a place for them. So you can go and you can see which proposals got funded, and you can read them and see, you know, maybe tailor your proposal a little bit, see what works, see what didn't work. It's a great way to get an idea and get feedback, especially having people read your proposals. You want to talk to mentors in your area about the content of your research strategy, what's working, what's not working, if you're stuck, what can help you. Get engaged early in research, start writing those papers, helping with proposals. You know, no information is too big or too small to go after. It's good to have a whole entire tool belt of things to assist you with. So looking at young investigator awards or early career awards, many agencies have these. NSF has a career, NIH has it, ONR, military, so Army, Air Force, NASA has them. Everybody's invested in getting early career researchers out there and doing what they want to do, which is research. There's specific funding that's set aside for it. So it's really good to start going after that money early and getting your proposals and your research out there. Odds are higher for getting these types because it is very specific to early careers. For example, NSF has a 20% funding rate for their career versus a 10% for standard grants. So almost double a chance right there. These are considered very prestigious. So it's a great little feather in your cap. You put it on your CV, and other agencies see that you have an early career award. So they know that you're getting the support and you know what you need to be doing to start going after other research funding. And there you go. Pave the way for future awards from the same agency.
TAPS. This is generally like time from your PhD?
So it could be postdoc, it could be while you're working on your PhD. It all depends, but most of them are like 10 years after postdoc is the time period for getting early career awards.
Okay.
And usually the funders specify that time frame. Another thing that TAPS had said earlier about diversifying, and again, it's a lot of people may not be aware of this, but there's also PCASE awards, and that's the Presidential Early Career Award for scientists and engineers. And so that's another area that folks could begin to look at. And there's different agencies that support that mechanism, from USDA to Commerce to Defense, Energy, Education, NASA, NSF. So again, that's just another area to look at as far as diversifying.
So the strategy for going after these Young Investigator Awards is most assistant professors whose research is relevant to agencies offering, it says, yep, but it should be YIA. Sorry about that. Get them. So you want to, again, be ready when opportunity knocks. So plan strategically and be ready for them. So you want to go after an NSF career award, let's just say. So you want to contact the relevant agency program officer, learn more about it, discuss what you want to do. Program officers love talking about this stuff. I have yet to meet one that does not love talking about it. You want to get in on those review programs that either we offer or a review panel at NSF. Get your name out there a little bit more. Ask previous awardees if they're willing to share their proposals, or look and see what's been awarded by the program. And you can also ask people that have been awarded to review your proposal and get some feedback on it. Don't jump the gun. Make sure that you are ready and everything is solid before you apply. A rushed proposals historically do not have as well of a chance of being funded as proposals that are well thought out and planned. Research now really is trending towards what is the research doing for the community or humanity. So take that broader impact very seriously. It does help factor into what gets funded and what doesn't get funded. That is a huge area right now in research, and it's just trending more and more. What is the research dollar doing for the public that is essentially funding the research? So some advice for navigating NIH programs is you want to review the IC is Institute Center priorities and goals. There's about 27 different institute centers with NIH. Each one has their own thing. And you definitely want to become familiar with each and every single one. Don't just assume that everything's painted with the same brush. You want to identify the specific grant programs offered by each IC and make sure that what you're going to be doing is going to work for them. Not everything's going to fit, and that's fine. That's why there is an entire buffet of opportunities out there. You just want to make sure which one's going to work for you. There is a guide for grants and contracts for NIH. You can go and take a look at it, become familiar with what they are looking for and what they're going to be requiring. Learn about the NIH application and review process. Come and talk to your local experts here at the university. There's a bunch of us that are very familiar with NIH and can help guide you and talk to you about it. Contact your program officers early to make sure that it's a correct match. That's come up a couple of times, so it's a very key sticking point. Find mentors that will help you and collaborate with you, and make sure you put your best foot forward and propose those really great ideas.
So right now we're going to be focusing primarily because NIH has a lot of really good tools and resources out there. So if you hadn't had a chance to look at it, here's the NIH Research Training website that does break a lot of the funding opportunities out based on where you are in your career trajectory. So when we look at this, again, based on where you are in your career, are you anywhere from undergraduate and postdoc all the way to your clinical pre-doc, and then postdoc from your earlier career, and then your investigator development and mentoring. We are primarily going to be focusing on these last three areas right here. And again, when you look at your funding opportunities, it's really good to look at where you are in your career. So when you look at, if you were a graduate clinical training, these are the funding opportunities. T is for training, F is for fellowship. And there's different mechanisms that are out there that are specifically tailored to what you are doing. For example, with Dr. Kelly Drew, she's an established investigator. So as you know, a lot of her research funding is primarily in this area right here, the R series as well as the P series that are there. As we move along, we're going to now talk about what are the different types of the NIH programs. So when we think of like, this is like the R series, the research, the R series is primarily used to support discrete, specific, prescribed research project. It's NIH's most commonly used grant mechanism. And there's really not a dollar threshold for it, but usually the awards are 3 to 5 years, and the R series is utilized by all centers and institutes. When we think about the K, again, those are where you are in your career. And you ask, why is it that they call it K when career begins with a C? That's because NIH has construction grants, and construction starts with the C. So they had to use the K for that. And again, there are funding mechanisms that are specific to your to the K series. When we start to think about the research training and fellowship, those are the T and F. Again, those are very, very specific, again, to where you are in your career. Program, project, or center grants, these are the big, sometimes multi-PI, it could be multi places. These are usually quite large, usually several $1 million and above. They might have sub-projects or pilot projects under them. We have here, we've got BLAST, we've got Embry. Those are examples of project center grants, are usually capacity building in nature. And then you've got various grants, as we said earlier, and various grants would be like your construction and some other ones that they have. When we look at another form, we've got the NERSA, and that's the National Research Service Awards. And these awards primarily support the training of biomedical, behavioral, and clinical researchers through their individual pre- and postdoc fellowships and institutional research training grants. So what they do is that these NERSA provide training opportunities for for individual researchers throughout the various stages of their education and training. So the Ruth L. Kirchstein NRSA was named after a well-regarded scientist who is known to be a great advocate for research training. And she passed away in October of 2019. Her many accomplishments included her involvement in the polio vaccine development. She was the first woman director of an NIH institute, as well as being a champion for research training and an advocate for the inclusion of underrepresented individuals in the biomedical workforce. So with some of these, these are institutional awards to support research, primarily in trainees. So this is a little bit of a snippet of what some of these NRSA awards are for. So common features of the NRSAs are they're for trainees and fellows. There usually are stipends. They can support your tuition. And also too, you also could, health insurance is sometimes allowed to be in there. And really this is for trainees and fellows can pursue clinical trials research experience, but they can't be lead on an independent clinical trial. So a lot of this is really, again, from the trainees' perspective on how to, get them shadowing and trained with individuals who are renowned in their field. And the thing with this type of award is that because they're trainees, they have to pursue full-time trainee. So you can't be 30% on this. The expectation is that if you are a trainee or fellow, your commitment is to be full-time in it. So again, what they do is they provide all of the resources through this mechanism to help support a full-time trainee in this. Okay, here we go. And here are some institutional, like a little bit of snippets. So what this does is the T32s, it provides a strong foundation for research design and methods. Again, it is from the aspect of shadowing and having someone that will help to develop you as the trainee, some really strong foundation as it relates to their, to where you're going in the health sciences. When you think of the T35s, all of the rules are still applicable, except these are short-term, a short-term commitment. Again, with one of the things to keep in mind with both of these types of mechanisms is that they're only restricted to US institutions. So if you are an institution outside of the United States, you are not eligible to apply for that type of mechanism. Okay, TAPS, it's on for you.
Every single time. Oh my goodness. You would think after a year and a half of this, I would remember to unmute myself before I talk. So these are the career awards, and as Rosie mentioned, they start with the K because construction starts with the C. So the K01 is a Mentored Research Scientist Career Development Award. This is for support of postdoctoral, early career research scientists in the biomedical, behavioral, clinical sciences. It's going to lead to, it's going to jumpstart you to research independence. The K08s are Mentored Clinical Scientist Research Development Award. So these are going to have more of a clinical aspect to them, where the K01 is not. The Patient-Oriented Research Career Development Award are going to be for those researchers who are going to be doing clinical trials and have a patient-oriented research. And they're going to go follow more of a clinical research career path. And then we have the Pathway to Independence Award, and that also supports clinically trained professionals in postdoctoral researchers to start moving towards the R01 supports for independent research.
Another thing I just want to add, especially with this whole case series, it is also too, it's for individuals, you know, let's say that you were trained in one field, but you want to go ahead and jumpstart into another field. These types of awards will help support training in a new field, or perhaps you've taken a hiatus from your research career. Again, as Tap said, this is another way to jumpstart your career.
So here are the different requirements that we were talking about on the K01, K08, and K23s. They can require a PI to conduct an independent trial. Those are the award notices there, the K01, K08, and K23. You'll have, the applicant has primarily responsibility for conducting and executing the trial. And it also may be for a feasibility study. These are usually 3 to 5 years is what they're awarded for. The permanent clinical trial research experience, but will not permit an independent clinical trial. So you could do research experience on a clinical trial. Those are the funding opportunity announcements for the K01, K08, and the K23. You can propose a research experience in a clinical trial, but not necessarily do an independent clinical trial. And then lastly, will permit a basic experimental studies with humans. So this will be a basic clinical trial. Those are the funding opportunity announcements there for each of the Ks. And you can propose a basic science experimental studies involving humans, which could be a prospective basic science study involving human participants. So you would have a basic clinical trial there. Institutional mentored K awards are the K12 and the KL2. These programs support scholar trainings for careers in specified research areas of interest to one or more of the NIH's institutes and centers. We have the Institutional Research and Academic Career Development Awards. These are the K12, postdoctoral research at a research intensive institution, and teaching and mentoring undergraduates at partner institutions. We have this one is coming up here in October. Some of these programs are primarily for clinicians or clinically relevant research. We have one for building interdisciplinary research in women's health for the K12, the NCATS for the KL2. It's to prepare PhDs and clinicians for independent research careers or academic careers at multiple institution types. These are individualized, they're well-supervised research experiences and career development guidance for scholars selected by the grantee institution. You are encouraged, kind of expected, to apply for subsequent K awards like the K08, K23, and KR1. So again, these are a springboard to get early career individuals to research independence. So these are all meant to kind of build on each other. Pathway to Independence Award. Again, this is a transitionary award going from those early career to the R's, so going into the research awards. The goal is to facilitate that transition from a mentored postdoc position into an independent research position, and help facilitate that. It does go in two distinct phases. You have phase one for the first couple years. It's mentored, you're affiliated with an institution, you're going to be completing your clinical training, and then it phases to the R00. So it's independent. You can be tenure track or equivalent, maybe have your own lab or be working with that. There are a couple of different requirements. Citizenship requirement is not always necessary. You have dual options there. So take a look at the different funding opportunity options and see which one's going to work best for you. Then we have the NIH Director's Early Independence Award. So you see that we're kind of getting into the postdoctoral training. You kind of skip that area, and this acts as an accelerant. It supports exceptional investigators to pursue independent research directly after completion of their research doctoral degree or clinical residency. These are highly competitive because it is a fast track award, and it's extremely prestigious. There are only 10 awards per year. It does bypass that traditional postdoctoral training. So again, it's an accelerated path, which some people might want to go after. So you must be within 12 months before or after receiving a research doctoral degree or completing a clinical postgraduate training. You're supposed to be expected for continual funding in your research program. Again, it supports early stage investigators that are, it's 10 awards a year, so got to be pretty exceptional. They look at intellect, scientific creativity, drive, and maturity to bypass the typical postdoctoral training phase. It's funded through the Common Fund. You must complete your doctoral degree or clinical training between June 1st of 2020 and September 30th of 2022 for the current round of funding that's being offered. Must be in a non-independent research position at time of application submission. Do not need preliminary data. It requires 9.6 months of research effort each year for the first 2 years, and it allows $250,000 of direct costs per year for up to 5 years.
Next, we're going to talk about the early research career development. So it's this purple area right here. For this, NIH and its stakeholder community have been concerned a lot of times with the long-term growth and the stability of the biomedical research enterprise for years. So as a result of their concerns, out came the Early Stage Investigator Program, ESI. One of the things to note with the Early Stage Investigator definition, according to NIH, is a program director or principal who has completed their terminal research degree. And then here's where it's at the end of their postgraduate clinical training, whichever date is later within the past 10 years. And these are a list of NIH grants that a PI can hold and still be considered as an early stage investigator. When we talk about determination of the ESI status, it's really important that those principal investigators have an ERA Commons account at the time of your application. If you're not sure if you have an account, please check with our office and we can make sure you either have one or if you don't have one, we can make sure and get you one. But it's important that when you do that, there's information that has to be put into the ERA Commons profile. And for those of you who may or may not know, the ERA Commons is a portal that NIH uses to go ahead and put information in for that PI. A lot of that information is imported by the PI. So the reason that they would like this information in is because the NIH system can automatically calculate whether that investigator is considered to be ESI. And then that will then show up on their Commons profile. So again, if for those of you who think you might fit this, have done the determination of the ESI status and it has not showed up yet, please contact the NIH ERA help desk for it. So again, especially with some researchers might have lapses in their research or research training or experience periods of less than full-time effort. Sometimes this can happen with, you might have gone on a sabbatical. You could have gone on maternity, paternity leave. There could be a number of things that you might have a lapse in it. So NIH has extended those requests again. It could be medical, family care, extended periods of like you're doing a clinical training, natural disasters, or it may be perhaps active duty. But a lot of this is determined on a case-by-case basis. So again, if you feel that you fit that definition and then you might want to be extended, you will have to visit the portal and go through that. If you're not quite sure, please come and see our office. We can go ahead and help you with navigating that. I know we're running short on time, but I'm not going to go through all the R01 grant programs. What we will do, the research training program, research programs, we'll go ahead and send the slides to Kelly and Denise for them to distribute. But basically these next couple of slides, the R03, the small, the R21, the exploratory developmental, the NIH New Innovators Award, and then the R35. So those are again different types of mechanisms that can be used as you that could be used in your as a postdoc and early career. Another thing is that what we wanted to also bring to your attention is that NIH does have another type of mechanism, supplements, and these supplements are to additional funding that can be used to your base funding. And again, it sometimes helps to bridge, maybe you're going from one mechanism to another mechanism. So this is another thing that you should be aware of for you. What we were going to do was to do an exercise on key components of a funding opportunity announcement, but we can go ahead and that will be for another time, because that in itself is a whole nother hour session on tips and tricks on how to navigate that right now. And then we have activities for that. Another thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, on our OGCA website, we do have checklists that you can use for as you start to begin to do your proposals, regardless of whether it's an R01, R03, R21. And this essentially walks you through everything that is needed in order for you to be as successful as possible. So these are tips, tricks, and tools that we have on our website to help you. So if you go to our forms section, we have lots of different things that you can do. And so basically we wanted to make it as easy as possible, essentially to plug and play and to take a lot of the guessing game out, because ultimately we want you to be focusing on the scientific portion of your proposal, which is really the meat and heart of what you're going to do in your research. So as we begin to wrap it up, I'm going to turn it over to TAPS, and we're starting to get into some tips for success for you as next steps.
Thanks, Rosie. And a note on the checklist is that NIH does update their forms every so often. Currently, we're in Forms F. Right now, they're looking at updating to Forms G in January. And we're looking at Forms G in January, end of January. So when we're looking at funding opportunity announcements and the due dates, we want to make sure that the correct forms are being used. So that's another thing to be aware of when you're looking at NIH. It seems confusing, but once you've been looking at it enough, it does actually make a lot of sense. Diversifying though your funding portfolio. So multiple sources might be available depending on the type of research you're going to be doing. Cast a wide net, see what sticks. Reach out to all those different agencies, reach out to those different program managers, talk to them about what you want to do. Maybe there might be some slight but you can put it all out there. There's no harm in proposing or looking at it. That's what our is for. We can help you with that. There's corporations and foundations, there's private gifts, there's international sources, and you do want to have a well-rounded portfolio. Eventually, once you become an independent researcher, you don't want to put all your eggs in a federal basket. Try to look for funding from a lot of different areas. Be very careful about IP, intellectual property matters. That's one of the reasons why the Office of Grants and Contracts is here. We are here to help you protect your research. I know it seems like we have a lot of I's to dot and T's to cross, but really we're here to protect you, your research, and make sure that nobody else can steal it. That's what we're here for. We're here to help. And those are the tips and tricks on diversifying your funding portfolio. Let's see here, any questions? I think the rest we have here are homework commitments.
So right now we're gonna wrap it up with, what's a good lecture without having homework commitments to it. And really these are tools that we have seen have been very beneficial to folks. Again, find an external funding program, whatever, this is it. Go find something on the NIH website, a couple of the things that we've said. Write a one-page narrative of the proposed project and develop a list of questions to ask your program officer. On our website, we do have a section on there. If you're afraid to go to your program officer, it helps guide you through some of the things that you should be aware of. And the reason you want to do a one-page narrative, it's because it's your elevator speech. You want to get that program officer as attention and not feeling like you're all over the place. Another thing is read a mock proposal and write a review of whether you should fund it or not. And then that way it's helpful that you can see things from the other side. And when you have your one-page narrative, create a timeline of needed activities to submit a proposal by the deadline, because it's incredibly important that you have, you're going to submit this R01. It's going to be submitted in October. Work backwards and make sure that you've got that particular timeline. Enhance your proposal quality by meeting with your mentors within your institution or external to your institution. And then again, you might have other mentors to discuss your proposal progress. When we start to think of the one-page outline, again, it should address the following questions. Some things may apply or may not. So please, you have the ability to tailor it. What is your research goal? And question, why is it important? Why should you be the person to conduct this research? And what funding agencies and specific programs would support this research? Again, know these things that you're now out in the field, and what level and kind of funding would you need to be successful? So again, these are just things that you need to reflect on. Again, all these things will help you as you meet with your program officer and you begin to develop your future proposals. And lastly, some other things are what tasks or steps are necessary for your research. Do you have to collaborate with another institution? Perhaps you may not have equipment there. Are there any, as we said, partners, resources, and what are the impacts of your research on public audiences and communities? Again, as Taps had said earlier, what is the broader impact and what is the return of investment for supporting the federal agency that supports your research? What is it in it for them and the greater public, the public good? So the next question that we're going to ask is, what are going to be your next steps as you move forward on this? And on behalf of the Office of Grants and Contracts, we would just like to thank you very much for this opportunity that you gave Taps and I to help present on this really small area. And thank you. And again, our doors, our computers through Zoom, we're always open to be a resource for you. And here is our contact information should you need to get a hold of us. We don't fight, we're incredibly friendly, and there isn't anything that we have not heard before. And as we like to pride ourselves on, we're really good about navigating the gray areas. So again, we're here for your success. And thank you, Kelly and Denise, for the invitation, and Carl for organizing. Really appreciate it, and thank you.
I just want to say thank you both, and I'm really excited to learn that your office is engaged in this level of kind of recruitment and education on these opportunities, you know, because it's such a big part of our mission, both through TRiM, also INBRI. I saw that Julie was here. She had to leave early, but so it's really helpful to know that you guys have, you know, your finger on this pulse, and I hope that we can continue to communicate with you on, you know, kind of big picture and what kind of opportunities we can help hone. And I really like that point that you made about, you know, understand what you need to get the job done. And it really, I've had a lot of luck with recruiting collaborators with different expertise. Sometimes it's through word of mouth with other colleagues that I know work with these people, but sometimes it's just cold calls. And you can find them in the literature, and it's, you know, it's really a lot of fun to develop that. And, you know, we're a fairly small institution, so generally we don't have all the techniques that are needed. And no, don't limit yourself with that. Go ahead and find people to collaborate with, because you can do subawards, and you can also pay for contractual services to get work done elsewhere. So I really appreciate that. And there's so many other things we could talk about, so we'll have to follow up.
Okay. Well, time is precious for everyone, and thank you again, and have a wonderful, Taps reminded me it's Friday the 13th. Have a good
Okay, well, thank you to both of you.
Okay, bye.
All right, okay, bye-bye.